We're back again with another edition of We've Got Questions. We have the founder and CEO of CaskX, Jeremy Kasler. What in the world is CaskX for those that don't know?
So CaskX is a company based in Los Angeles that allows, let's say, retail investors or the man in the street to invest into barrels of new make whiskey or bourbon.
Now, for those that are, listening in here, I hear an accent. I'm guessing bourbon may not have been your first love, or was it? How did you get into this world of bourbon and whiskeys?
No, that's right. So I'm from the UK, which is the home of Scotch, as I'm sure you're aware. The business initially started as a business to help people invest into Scotch barrels, which people have been doing for 15 or 20 years now. And there's been a huge Scotch boom over the last 15 or 20 years. Lots of people making lots of money by investing into barrels of new make Scotch. As the price of course, the barrels goes up, the bottle prices have been going up, as people have seen if you go to your liquor store. And now almost exactly the same thing is happening in the bourbon market. So in the last 4 or 5 years, we're seeing this huge bourbon boom, not just in the US, but also all over the world. So as the barrels of bourbon age, of course, it improves the flavour, it becomes more valuable, and of course, therefore, the price goes up. But at the same time, there's more people drinking bourbon, and there's more people drinking more expensive bourbon. So it does represent a good investment for those people who can get in early into new make bourbon.
Well, I was going to say, I'm guessing that's what you saw that made you want to launch CaskX, was that this is an investment opportunity, but at the same time, as prices go up, it's harder for folks to maybe be able to be part of things like that.
Yeah, that's true. But I think, again, going back to what we've seen in the Scotch market, although Scotch is different to bourbon, it's essentially the same product. And we've seen, like I said, the values of Scotch go through the roof. That there was a barrel sold for something like $20 million for one barrel of Scotch, which sounds crazy, is crazy. It doesn't really make too much sense. But we've seen the same thing happening exactly with bourbon. And before we launched CaskX in the US, there was no one offering this service. There's many companies in Europe, even in Asia now, who allow just retail investors, normal people, to be involved in the market. Prior to that, 20, 50, 100 years ago, lots of people were investing into barrels of Scotch, but it was industry people. It was people who kind of were on the inside already, sometimes with generational relationships. But now CaskX in the US has opened it up so that almost anybody can invest.
Well, and for those that are like, okay, I understand that I can invest in it, what does it mean for them? What are they actually getting? And also, I'm guessing this does help out some of those maybe smaller brands that are looking to buy up some stock that they're just having trouble to get their hands on as well.
Yeah, it's kind of a win-win because from the distillery's point of view, that they want to monetize their production. And of course, for a lot of distilleries, they can't wait 4, 6, 8 years before they actually see some return on those barrels. So in many cases, for example, they'll produce, say, 5,000 barrels, but they'll sell 1,000 barrels to CaskX day one. So of course, they've got an immediate return. That allows them to help to age the other barrels and wait a little bit to get paid. From a client's point of view, of course, it's a good investment. It's tangible. It's something that they can sort of feel and smell. That they can visit the distillery itself. We put on VIP tours. They can be involved in the process, and it becomes a lot more real when they can actually visit the people behind it. The general investment window you could say would be anywhere between, say, 4 to 6 years. We include 8 years storage and insurance and taxes. So, for example, a client would buy, say, 50 barrels. We would then store them at the distillery where they're made, because what we call the provenance, or the history of the barrels, is very important in terms of the value, to know they've not been shipped all over the place. Everything's paid for the client, the taxes, the storage, the insurance. And then, as we say, in 4, 5, 6, 8 years' time, when we feel the time's right, when the client agrees, of course, we'll say, right, let's now sell these barrels, and the client makes the profit.
Well, and for those that may not know too, you guys have a team that does work with these distilleries, goes and finds these distilleries, and vets their product as well.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So we've got people on the ground, of course, in Kentucky and Tennessee. It's not just a matter of buying any barrels from any distillery. It's not quite like the stock market where there's thousands of options, but we do look at the people behind the business, the people running it. What's the track record? Is it a good brand? Are they looking to market overseas, which is an extremely important market now? So all these things we put together. We provide the data, and it is a little bit like buying stocks or shares, in that there's a number of factors go together before we make a recommendation, and then the client will decide yes or no. He might have a portfolio of different. He might have 50 barrels from one distillery, 50 from another, and build up a sort of spread portfolio over a period of time.
I like it. Nothing like being diverse with the bourbon. I think all of us have a tendency to do that as well with when we're just buying it for our shelves. And I guess the last question I have for you, Jeremy, is probably a very interesting one, because where do you see the bourbon industry heading, and how do you see it growing, and so forth? And are there any worries of maybe a bubble bursting at any time?
Yeah, no, that's obviously, it's a very good, very important question. And again, I'm going to hark back to the Scotch industry, because I think they're two very similar, industries. Of course, we've seen really for the last 25 years that the Scotch market grow and grow and grow. And one of the reasons for that is not just because people in Scotland are drinking more whiskey, although they do drink a lot of whiskey, but I'm not sure they can drink any more. There is a limit, of course. But what we've seen is these international markets opening up. So markets like India, China, South America, US even. And not just the fact there's more people drinking, let's say, Scotch for now, but also the quality and the price point is going up. Now, exactly the same thing is happening with bourbon, where for a number of years previously we saw lots of Scotch bars opening up. Now we're seeing bourbon bars, something that never existed before, not just in the US, but in the UK, in India, in China, in Brazil, you name it. There's more and more people drinking bourbon, and the quality and the standard of the bourbon they're drinking, the price point is getting higher. So that's something that's almost like self-perpetuating, that as more people drink bourbon, more people drink bourbon, because they might take a bottle to a party in China. They might open a bourbon bar in Shanghai. All of a sudden, of course, people are going there and becoming a fan. So, yes, there's a massive bourbon boom. Go to Kentucky or Tennessee, all you'll see is cranes and building work and expansion. It's really crazy. But, in our opinion, the so-called boom is not so much a boom as a really good, steady growth. And we believe, it's obviously here to stay, but for the next 10 or 15 years at least, that expansion is going to continue, considerably.
And like you said, folks are going to have to be able to sell some barrels to make sure that they can let those other ones continue to age properly. And if folks want to get more information on CaskX, CaskX.com. And Jeremy, thanks for sharing some inside knowledge on something that I think a lot of people probably don't know exists all the time.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.